Hey everyone, Sel here. In this video I'll be discussing why I think you should follow a build guide as a new or returning player, and make some suggestions as to guide makers to check out. In the background will be some old footage of the Bone Shatter Juggernaut I started with in Crucible League, if you're curious about what I'm playing. Path of Exile is a very complicated game, and tends to grow more so over time. When I started back in 2013, the game was very bare bones compared to what it is now. These days there's a lot more going on in terms of character classes, the passive tree, equipment, skills, game mechanics, etc. Success in the game is very knowledge driven, so it can be hard to progress as a new or returning player when you don't have existing knowledge of the fundamentals or the recent changes. Many players that don't follow a build guide will eventually hit a wall in their progression, past which they'll struggle with various aspects of the game. Sometimes they're taking too much damage, sometimes they're not dealing enough, sometimes both, sometimes they're running out of mana. The game tends to present you with a handful of potential problems and a wide variety of options for solving them. Build guides will help you either solve that problem entirely or narrow down the choices for you to make based on your preferences. For example, taking lightning damage can cause your character to become shocked and take more damage. There are many ways to become resistant or immune to shock. One build might decide to incorporate a chance to avoid being shocked, up to as much as 100%. Another build might reduce the effect that shock has on your character. Yet another build might use an aura or a unique item to become completely immune to shock. As a new player, you might not know these solutions exist. In fact, depending on your playstyle, you might not even know that you're taking extra damage because of a status effect. In this way and more, build guides aimed at new players help you learn about things you might otherwise not. Beyond being able to learn some of the game's mechanics, you can also get a visual feel for how a build or skill plays. This might help you in deciding the style of gameplay you'd like to pursue. Some builds are more smooth or visually appealing than others. Some are sturdier but a bit slower. It's hard to get a sense of exactly what you want to play, even for me, but it might help nudge you in one direction or another. So, what type of guide should you follow? There are hundreds on YouTube, so which are legit? Generally speaking, if a prominent community member puts out a video and explicitly states that the build is new player friendly, you can trust that, especially if it's mentioned to be a league starter. In the community, that generally means that the build is easy to get going from scratch. Some content creators like Pox or Zizarin will even have videos of them playing through the campaign from scratch, if you aren't worried about spoiling the story for yourself. For those of you that prefer text guides or written guides, the forums, the official Path of Exile forums, are still a good place to go for guides like that. There's also a site called Maxroll that I believe has written guides, but I personally haven't used it much, so I can't give too much testimony about that. On the other hand, there are an unfortunate number of scam channels, so to speak, out there that make videos in order to funnel you to their website to pay for services that break the game's terms of service. In general, I would steer clear of build videos that don't include commentary or sufficient description of what the build entails. Especially avoid any that don't have a link to an example character of some sort. Even if you don't fully know what you're looking for on the example character as a new player, it's a standard practice to include a Path of Building link. If you don't know what that is, it's essentially a build planning tool that allows you to easily share and configure your character. I'll have another video coming out about that sometime in the future. As for text guides, I would really recommend sticking to either the official forums or Maxroll, as previously stated. Ultimately, using a guide is nothing to be ashamed of, and in my opinion, will greatly improve most people's enjoyment of their first character. The game can be very difficult to get into, so removing barriers early on is something I recommend to anyone that isn't a super hardcore player ready to dive in and figure things out on their own. If this video is helpful and you want to see more going forward, feel free to support the channel with a like, comment, or subscription, and I'll see you next time. Peace.